What's up guys, and welcome to an epic camera test comparison. We've got the new Google Pixel 10 Pro here finally up against the iPhone 16 Pro Max, which is soon to be replaced by the iPhone 17 Pro Max, but we're going to use that for now. And of course we have the best of Samsung, which is the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Let's get right into it. So we're kicking this off with the 4K 60 FPS video on all three phones, and we're shooting in the 1x mode. As you can see, this is kind of a beautiful setting to test out the colors, HDR in 4K 60 FPS. Obviously, Galaxy S25 Ultra can shoot in 8K, true 8K, while Pixel can do some upscaling with the AI later, and then iPhone can do 4K 60 only. That's the max. So we're going to switch to the ultra wide angle lens. You can see that the lens switching was pretty smooth on all three phones, and also notice how which phone is keeping the colors consistent between all three lenses. Now let's go ahead and switch from 0.6x to 5x lens on all three phones, again in 4K 60 FPS. So here we go on the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Next we have the Google Pixel 10 Pro. And finally we have the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So yeah, this is 5x. Let's try and zoom a bit more, all the way to the max zoom, so 15x on the iPhone. Let's do the same on the Google Pixel 10 Pro, so 20x on the Pixel. And then finally 20x on the Galaxy S25 Ultra. I'm trying to hold the rig as stable as possible, so again 20x max video 4K 60 FPS zoom on both Pixel and the S25 Ultra, while the iPhone has 15x zoom. So now we have switched to the 4K 60 FPS using the front camera on all three phones, and I'm trying to be as centered frame as possible on these devices, but you can see we've got a bright sky in the background. Again, kind of a perfect setting to look at the 4K 60 FPS performance using the front camera on all phones. Let's have a quick walk. So right off the bat, I can see it's pretty obvious that Pixel has the widest front camera, and it does give the option to punch in a little bit if I want to, but I really like this wide look. So now I have switched to the portrait mode for video on Samsung and iPhone. This is something that Pixel can't do, which is kind of a shame, you know. It's a 2025 flagship phone. So we're shooting now in the portrait video mode. Both iPhone and Samsung are shooting in 4K 30 FPS, whereas the Pixel 10 Pro is still stuck at 1080p 30 frames per second. Let me know how the blur is looking and how they're handling the colors. Another 4K 60 FPS comparison across all three phones. Once again, a tough situation indeed. Bright sky and lots of things going around. From this situation to kind of like a more of a normal scene. So let's switch to the ultra wide. I have to say, both Samsung and Apple are pretty smooth when it comes to switching lenses, but I can't say the same about the Pixel 10 Pro. What I'm talking about, this is 5x on Samsung, 5x on the Pixel, took a second there, and then 5x on the iPhone. Just trying to be stable on all three phones. Let me know which one you find the best in this situation in the comments below. You can kind of notice on the text which one is doing the sharpest job there. Check this out, guys. We have this little mini bridge, and look at that view. This mini lake filled with the green stuff and the green trees on the back. Kind of looks nice. Again, we are shooting in 4K 60 FPS on the main 1x lens across all three phones. Should I dip these phones in this water? Nah. Let's try 5x zoom here. So now we're shooting in 4K 30 FPS. I just found a lot of ducks chilling next to the water, so kind of a perfect time to zoom in. So we're at 5x zoom level. So 10x. Okay, so I waited some more time. Okay, I waited a little bit longer to have the scene even darker. Yeah, we're still shooting 1x, 4K 30 FPS. This is before we jump into absolute night scene. So now we're shooting in night scenario on all three phones in 4K 30 FPS. And we're currently in the main 1x lens. Now I'm going to quickly switch to the ultra wide angle lens on all phones. So they're shooting again 4K 30 FPS. Let's go ahead and do the video zoom, so 5x on all these devices. So let me know which one you think is doing better here, and we can actually go all the way to 15x on the iPhone, 20x on the Pixel, and 20x on the Galaxy S25 Ultra. So again, out of all these three phones, Ultra is the only one that lets you switch to the front camera as well without stopping the video, on top of switching through all the lenses. I mean, you can switch all the lenses on these phones, you can even pause the video, but S25 Ultra is the only one that lets you switch to the front camera without stopping the video, and I can actually tell. So big up to Samsung for this amazing feature. So let me give you guys my thoughts on what I think regarding the photo and video performance of the Pixel 10 Pro versus the Galaxy S25 Ultra and the iPhone 16 Pro Max. When it comes to photos, they all have their own color, they all have their own unique look, so that's gonna come down to personal preference. Sometimes colors can get a bit aggressive on the Pixel 10 Pro, but overall, most of the time the image looks really cooked. And I'm particularly impressed by how it handles HDR in the 50 megapixel mode, easily the best one compared to iPhone and Samsung. Now, sadly, even with the Pixel 10 Pro, you can't take portrait mode photos using the 5x lens, so you can only do it from 1 to 3x, and that's a main sensor crop, so you're really not gonna get portraits as good and as natural looking as the ones you get on the Samsung and the iPhone. This is honestly a pretty big disappointment. I don't know why they have done this. I don't know if they have any plans of changing this in the future, but yeah, this is how it is. If you're someone who's specifically considering video for your next flagship phone, then you can see that Pixel is definitely not on the level of the iPhone and Samsung in terms of the 4K video performance, especially when it gets low light. And I'm not even talking about complete night scenarios. Like even in overcast scenes, you see some grains here and there, which is of course noise. Obviously you can do the night side video, which takes away this grain, but you need to have a good internet connection, and it takes some time to process that whole video. So that's always an option, but for the default shooting, it's definitely levels below compared to the iPhone and Samsung. But if you're a selfie lover, then this is gonna be probably the best selfie phone on the market. 42 megapixels, but the best thing is that you can take it super wide, so it's much wider than what we can get on the competition. Yeah, that's a full camera test comparison between three of the best from three of the biggest companies, Samsung, Google, and Apple. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Of course, 17 Pro Max is coming pretty soon. We're definitely gonna run this again. With that being said, I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.